First thing Mrs. Okafor noticed about the new nanny was that she arrived on foot. Not by car, not by car service, on foot, canvas bag over one shoulder, her coat buttoned against the November wind. Mrs. Okafor watched from the tall window above the entry as the young woman came up the gravel drive of Calloway House, paused to look at the building the way a person looks at a painting, rather than a door to knock on, and then knocked. No hesitation, no performance. To knock. 11 years Mrs. Okafor had kept that house. She had watched 3 nannies come and go in the past 8 months alone, each one capable on paper and undone by the reality. A 7-year-old boy who did not speak at meals, who sat at the far end of his enormous bedroom and stared at the wall, who flinched when the front door opened because the front door opening meant his father had come home. She had watched Mr. Calloway stand in the hallway after those departures, still in his coat, reading the agency's latest letter with the same flat expression he brought to most things. And she had seen just once his hand tighten on the paper before he set it on the hall table and walked away. The man ran half the financial empire of the eastern seaboard. Governments consulted him, rivals feared him. His name, spoken in certain rooms, induced a particular silence, the kind that falls not from respect but from something older and more careful than respect. He was not cruel. He had never raised a hand or a voice in Mrs. Okafor's 11 years. But there was a coldness in the way the house organized itself around him, the staff moving just a half step quicker, the rooms going tidier when his car turned in at the gate. And Marcus, who was 7 and had his father's dark eyes, and none of his father's armor, felt that cold all the way to the bone. The girl at the door was Rosa Adeyemi, 23, the agency said. No grand credentials, kind references. Mrs. Okafor brought her in, showed her the house, and said what she always said to new staff. Mr. Calloway keeps early hours and late nights, and the boy eats better if you don't make a fuss about what he won't eat. Rosa listened without writing anything down, which might have been a bad sign. Except that her eyes were steady, and she was clearly actually listening rather than waiting for the tour to end. Marcus did not come out of his room that first evening. Rosa did not coax him. She sat in the small chair outside his door and read aloud from a book she had brought herself. Something about a boy who builds a boat from pieces he finds on a beach, and she read it the way a person reads to themselves when they enjoy the story, not the way a person reads when they are making a demonstration of it. After 40 minutes she stopped, said goodnight to the door, and went to her own room. Mrs. Okafor, who had been listening from the hallway corner, stood still for a moment. The second evening, the door opened a crack. By the end of the first week, Marcus was sitting on the floor inside his room while Rosa read from the doorway. By the end of the second week, he was sitting beside her. He still didn't say much. Rosa didn't seem to require much. She brought a small clay pot up from the kitchen one afternoon and set it on Marcus's windowsill with a pinch of basil seed and a spoon, and she showed him how to press the seeds just below the soil surface, no deeper than a thumbnail's length. Marcus did it with the gravity of a surgeon. Rosa said, "Good, now we water it and we wait, and that's all there is to it, mister." Calloway came home early on a Thursday and found them in the kitchen. Rosa was showing Marcus how to tear the first small leaves from the pot. Basil had come in fast. The kitchen caught the south light, and Marcus was laughing. Not a performed laugh, not the careful social sound Mrs. Okafor sometimes heard from him when adults required a response. A real laugh, sudden and surprised, because Rosa had just claimed very seriously that Basil could smell a lie and would refuse to grow for dishonest people. Challenge. And Marcus had said that was not true. And Rosa had said, "You're right, I made it up, I was testing you." And Marcus had laughed again, louder. Mr. Calloway stood in the kitchen doorway. He stood there longer than he needed to. Rosa noticed him. She had a way of noticing without making a production of it. And she said, "Good evening, Mr. Calloway. We've been growing things." And she said it the way she said most things. Plainly, without the particular careful brightness staff often used with him, as if he were a weather system to be managed, rather than a person to be spoken to. Marcus had gone a little still the way he always did when his father appeared, but Rosa put her hand lightly on the table near him, not touching, just present, and the stillness in the boy didn't deepen into the old flinch. Mr. Calloway looked at the basil on the windowsill, he said. That came in quickly. Rosa said. Good light in here. He nodded. Mrs. Okafor, flour on her hands, tended to be very busy with a mixing bowl. The weeks move the way weeks move, when something is slowly changing, but no one has named it yet, Mr. Calloway began to come home at the dinner hour more often. He had not done that in a long time. He sat at the head of the long table, and Marcus sat at his usual remove. But the remove was a little less than it had been, and sometimes Marcus would say something to Rosa, across the table. A question about the basil, a complaint about the neighbor's dog. And Rosa would answer, and Mr. Calloway would listen, and once he answered before Rosa could, and Marcus looked at him with surprise, and then looked away, and then looked back. Rosa treated Mr. Calloway the way she treated everyone in the house, as if their dignity was a given, rather than a thing to be earned through power or proximity to it. She did not flatter him. When she disagreed with something, she said so, briefly and without apology. Once about Marcus's bedtime, once about whether the boy needed a third tutor or needed the two, he had to simply slow down. Both times she was right. Both times, Mr. Calloway recognized that she was right in the way a person recognizes something they already knew, but had not been willing to say. He began to see what she was doing, and then he began, without planning, to try to do some of it himself. He asked Marcus one evening what the boat in the book was made of. Marcus told him, in one long unguarded sentence, more words than he had volunteered to his father in months. It was a Tuesday in January when Marcus asked his question. They were at dinner, 3 of them, and Mrs. Okafor was clearing the soup when Marcus, without preamble, without looking up from his bread, said, "Can Rosa stay always?" The table went quiet, the way tables go quiet when something real has been said. Mr. Calloway looked at his son. Marcus was still looking at his bread, his ears going pink the way a child's ears go when he has said the thing he meant to keep inside. Rosa was very still. Mr. Calloway said yes. He said it, before. He had thought it through. Before the part of him that measured every word and weighted every consequence had time to intervene. He said it the way a man says a true thing when the armor, just for a moment, is off. Marcus looked up. Then he looked at Rosa. Rosa looked at Marcus and then at Mr. Calloway. And there was something in her face. Not triumph, not relief, simply a plain and steady warmth. The same warmth she had carried through the door that first November afternoon. That Mr. Calloway had not had directed at him in a very long time, if ever. He did not look away. Mrs. Okafor set down the soup bowls she was holding and stood in the kitchen doorway for a moment, listening to the sound of the table settling back into the dinner, the small noise of Marcus tearing his bread, the ordinary murmur of people who have, without quite deciding to, become a family. 11 years she had kept that house. She had thought she had seen everything it had to show her. She had been wrong about that, gratefully, completely wrong.